The scenes were extraordinary, shocking enough to penetrate, I think, our collective apathy last year. People running onto runways, people climbing into military cargo plane wheel wells. Imagine for a moment the desperation that needs to exist in one's life to attempt to climb into the wheel well of a moving plane. I hope you saw the picture on the front of today's bulletin. Hundreds of people being airlifted, standing room only, after far more people than the plane is supposed to carry rushed into the hold before it departed. They were planning on taking 350 to 400 people in that hold. Instead, there were 823 people in that C-17 Globemaster. The lieutenant colonel, who was the mission commander for the flight, a man named Eric Kutt, said, "We have women and children and people's lives at stake. It's not about capacity or rules and regulations." A military man saying it's not about rules anymore. It's about training and directives to make sure we could safely and effectively get that many people out. 823 people inside one plane flown to Qatar before they were transported elsewhere. There were thousands of people in Kabul, thousands of soldiers who attempted to hold the line long enough for thousands of others to leave. It was an unbelievable, desperate time last year. For a period of time, Liberty Village here in New Jersey had a greater population than more than half the towns in our state. More than 11,000 Afghan refugees were living at the makeshift community at Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst, where the military attempted to provide housing and food, education, and healthcare while connecting people to resettlement agencies around the United States that would attempt to secure housing in the midst of our own affordable housing crisis and ballooning rental rates in many communities. This all may sound like a news update, something that you might read in the newspaper. But this is what I would like for you to know today. It's been quite challenging, especially over the last 3 or 4 weeks while Omicron has been doing its thing in our community. It's been very challenging to effectively communicate with all of you about what's going on. Events, prayers, letters, updates happen all the time. They're in our weekly emails, which is becoming almost as dense as a monthly newsletter, and yet there is so much that is not being said. We are remiss in not giving kudos to a person or a team or information about the many good things that are underway or challenges that people are rising to, even as so many of us appear tired or irritable or discouraged. And yet, Church World Service in Jersey City has never been busier as they attempt to resettle hundreds of people from Afghanistan in North New Jersey. Your outreach committee at Union Congregational Church has endeavored to help where possible, even as Omicron has been doing what it does best. The outreach committee has dispersed recently $5,000 for Church World Service's use in helping resettle folks right now. We've begun to post volunteer opportunities that usually include helping set up apartments for newer arrivals, mostly in the Hackensack area. And we have been posting regularly an Amazon wish list in our bulletins and communications to you so that you can directly purchase an item for an apartment. That means that instead of showing up to an empty apartment in a new country and culture, apartments are being stocked with bedding and utensils, appliances, big and small, so that we can ensure that at least some headaches are removed for people as they enter a new community. You can go to that Amazon wish list and buy items big and small and know that they will be used. Some of us are called to fly C-17 Globemasters carrying 800 people to Qatar, and some of us can fundraise. Some of us can purchase, some of us can show up, but no matter how old or young, we can buy a can opener or a pillow, or we can call, respond, and play our part in this enormous, incredible resettlement effort that is already underway. And I'd like you to know that Mike Spinella, has gone above and beyond. And of course, he isn't looking for this attention. He's not done anything for attention. But I want to simply highlight that one of our own, Mike, has, in the midst of lots of his own busyness, gone out of his way to be helpful to one couple who resettled in Clifton recently, and with whom he has been in contact several times. Mike has been trying lately to help the Afghan gentleman, Mohammed, sort out Social Security paperwork so that he can gain employment. All of these small and sometimes challenging tasks add up. It can feel like a mere gesture or a token, except that it isn't a mere gesture or a token when someone arrives in an apartment and finds a pillow to lay their head on, or Mohammed scratches his head trying to figure out how to manage Social Security bureaucracies, and Mike calls him and listens and understands and vows to help. It's not a token. It's not a gesture. It really matters. Today's scripture invites us in to sit with the congregants listening to Jesus read from the scroll, to imagine ourselves listening and nodding along, realizing that he stopped short of reading the entirety of Isaiah 61. He stopped short. He was about to read the verse that proclaims the day of vengeance, a day of reckoning, a day of an eye for an eye, and he stopped short, and you think how lovely, how interesting that he speaks so well and he teaches so well. There are profound implications for not reading that verse about vengeance. And Joseph and Mary, they must be so proud. And then he says to the people gathered there, the very people that are bragging about him and praising him, it's not about you. It's not about you. I have other places to be, other more emergent things to tend to. And so the people become angry, so angry that they are out of their minds. They lose themselves in their anger over something that they didn't really have the right to be angry about. So much so that their behavior becomes irrational groupthink. Humans have been worrying about the wrong kinds of things. Traffic jams through the valley, and the last bottle of Perrier, and dinner party seating arrangements, and some words that aren't even about you, but about which we choose to take offense, and about which we choose to stress. We become so worried that human beings have a tendency to suck up all the air in the room from the things that actually matter. We are living in a time, an incredible time in American history, where thousands and thousands and thousands of people have run for their lives from war zones after trying to help the United States. And here they are, right now. And we, beloved community, have a chance to help. Peace be with you.